Hare Krishna, good morning, everyone. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Nam Chaiva Narotamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, and to Nara. Narayan wishes, the supermost human being, and to Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto the author, Srila Vyasadeva. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, and we are reading from the third canto entitled The Status Quo. And we are reading from the third chapter of the Lord passed them out of Vrindavan, and we are reading from text 23. So someone can unmute themselves. We do one word Sanskrit at a time. Daiva.
Daiva.
Adineshu.
Adineshu.
Kameshu.
Kameshu.
Daiva Adina.
Daiva Adina.
Swayam.
Swayam.
Puman.
Puman.
Ka.
Ka.
Vishrambeta.
Vishrambeta.
Yogena.
Yogena.
Yogeshvaram.
Yeshvaram.
Anuvrata.
Anuvrata.
Daivadineshu kameshu.
Daivadineshu kameshu.
Daivadina swayam puman.
Daivadina swayam puman.
Ko vishrambeta yogena.
Vishrambeta yogena.
Yogeshwaram anuvrataha.
Yogeshvaram anuvrataha.
Daivadineshu kameshu.
Daivadineshu kameshu.
Daivadina swayam puman.
Daivadina swayam puman.
Ko vishrambeta yogena.
Vishrambeta yogena.
Yogeshwaram anuvrataha.
Yogeshvaram anuvrataha.
Daivadineshu kameshu.
Daivadineshu kameshu.
Daivadina swayam puman.
Daivadina swayam puman.
Ko vishrambeta yogena.
Vishrambeta yogena.
Yogeshwaram anuvrataha.
Yogeshvaram anuvrataha.
Someone would like to chant the verse?
Daivadineshu kameshu.
Daivadineshu kameshu.
Daivadina swayam puman.
Daivadina swayam puman.
Ko vishrambeta yogena.
Ko vishrambeta yogena.
Yogeshvaram anuvrataha.
Yogeshwaram anuvrataha. Someone else would like to chant the verse? Okay, one word at a time, Sanskrit, and then translation in English. Daiva.
Daiva.
Supernatural.
Supernatural.
Adineshu.
Adineshu.
Being controlled.
Being controlled.
Kameshu.
Kameshu.
In sense enjoyment.
In sense enjoyment.
Daiva Adina.
Daiva Adina.
Controlled by supernatural force.
Controlled by supernatural force.
Swayam.
Swayam.
himself,
himself,
Puman,
Puman,
living entity,
living entity,
Ka,
Ka,
whoever,
whoever,
Vishwambeta,
Vishrambeta,
can have faith in,
can have faith in,
Yogena,
Yogena,
by devotional service,
by devotional service,
Yogeshwaram,
Yogeshwaram,
the Supreme Lord,
the Supreme Lord,
Anuvrata,
Anubrata,
serving.
serving.
Translation. Every living entity is controlled by a supernatural force, and thus his sense enjoyment is also under the control of that supernatural force. No one, therefore, can put his faith in Lord Krishna's transcendental sense activities, but one who has become a devotee of the Lord by rendering devotional service. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, no one can understand the transcendental births and activities of the Lord. The same fact is herein corroborated. No one but one who is enlightened by devotional service of the Lord can understand the difference between the Lord's activity and those of others. Who are controlled by the supernatural force. The sense enjoyment of all animals, men, and demigod within the purview of the material universe is controlled by the supernatural force called the Prakriti or Daivi Maya. No one is independent in obtaining sense enjoyment, and everyone in this material world is after sense enjoyment. Persons who are themselves under the control of supernatural power cannot believe that Lord Krishna is not under any control beyond himself in the matter of sense enjoyment. They cannot understand that his senses are transcendental. In the Brahma Samhita, the Lord's senses are described as omnipotent, i.e., with any sense, he can perform the activity of the other senses. One who has limited senses cannot believe that the Lord can eat by his transcendental power of hearing and can perform the act of sex life simply by seeing. The controlled living entity cannot even dream of such sense activities in his conditioned life, but simply by the activities of Bhakti Yoga. He can understand that the Lord and his activities are always transcendental. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 1855, Bhaktyamam abhijananti yavam yas chasmi tatvataha. One cannot know even a fraction of the activity of the Lord if he is not a pure devotee of the Lord. Jai. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyanachala Shalakaya Chakshurun Militan Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapinatam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upakadamayam Dadati Swapadam Tikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sahajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Shajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namam Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prestaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamine. Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirveseshya Shunyavadi Pastyachade Jatarine Mokam Koti Vachalam Pangun Langayate Girim Satripakanat Bande Shigurum De Jatarine. Hare Krishna. So the verse today reads: every living entity is controlled by a supernatural force, and thus his sense enjoyment is also under the control of that supernatural force. No one, therefore, can put his faith in Lord Krishna's transcendental sense activities, but one who has become a devotee of the Lord by rendering devotional service. So Uddhava, is speaking to Vidura, and in his previous verse, he says, but at last his detachment from ephemeral sex life was fully manifested. So it could be confusing to read that verse, because then he really brings Krishna to our level, like he needed to detach from sense enjoyment. So then we understand why Uddhava come in his speaking with Vidura. He come to this verse today of like, well, but you need to understand that the sense gratification of the Lord, the enjoyment of the Lord, this sex life, is not at all the same one that the sex life and the sense enjoyment of the conditioned soul. And in fact, only a person who are under devotional service to the Lord can make those distinctions. Otherwise, people tend to think that God is like them, is anthropomorphism, that God is like me. So if I'm controlled by my senses, he's also controlled by my senses. And only to devotional service can we understand that God is not. God has transcendental senses. So that's the whole purpose of this, that Uddhava really want to make the distinction because of the previous verse. And so Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Gyanyatya Savayam Gyanam Chayad Hahaitukam. So by rendering devotional service, what's happened? I say, well, yeah, what's happened? By rendering service, immediately two things happen. One, receive causeless knowledge and detachment from this world. So that's Sutta Goswami speaking to the sage, and he said that's the essence. Like immediately acquire causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. And only devotional service can serve us in that way. Without serving the Lord, then we are not participating in absolute transcendental activities. Absolute transcendental activities means that we connect with the absolute truth, and the absolute truth is a person. And the only way to reach that person is through serving. And the only way to reach this also is to serving, isn't it? Like if I want to know about any one of you, Anansuya or Damayanti or Bhakta-Devon or Kim, if I really want to know you, for you to reveal yourself to me, then I will bring you gifts, or I will speak with you and listen to you. I will render some kind of service. I will maybe come and help you if you're sick, or I will cook for you, or in so many ways, in order for you to feel trusting of me, to reveal yourself to me, then that's going to go through services, through services to each other. Maybe we don't call it service, but that's what's happened. Like if someone come to us and like us and do something for us, then we'll be more inclined to reveal ourselves, to reveal who we are, what we like, how we function, the things that make us happy, the things that make us sad, and all those things. And Krishna is the same because he's a person. So, and as a person in the Bhagavad Gita, he expands on all those points. So we are going to do a little journey into the Bhagavad Gita. And Prakriti Kriyamanani Guna Karmani Sarvashaha Ahankara Vimudatma Kartaha Miti Manyate. So the Lord says, the bewildered spirit soul under the influence of the three modes of material nature think himself the doer of activities which are in actuality carried out by nature. So the same idea, controlled by supernatural force. And what I like in the verse today is Daiva is called supernatural in a word for word. And then Daiva Adina, controlled by supernatural force. And then, of course, the Lord is called Yogeshwara, which is a supreme master of mystic. So if we look at the word for word of the verse we have today, it's a very interesting way of the translation, supernatural, because it's not very often that Srila Prabhupada uses the word supernatural. So natural, we know it's under the material nature, it's automatic, and then supernatural is something that's above, and that's the force of Krishna. So in the living entity is a conditioned living entity, because those who are serving Krishna, the pure devotees, those who are serving Krishna, they are not under Prakriti. They are not under the three modes of material nature. So when we speak about those bewildered spirits, so we are speaking about the conditioned soul. So we are conditioned by the three modes of material nature. And we are conditioned so much so that because when we are cast away from spiritual consciousness, we are cast away in illusion and ignorance. And because of that illusion and ignorance, we think we are the doer. We think that when we achieve something, we are the doer, or we think we are the doer in so many ways, in our way of thinking, our way of enjoyment. This verse is so much about enjoyment. But in fact, our enjoyment is already determined. Like for animals, for example, we always speak about a pig. So his enjoyment is already determined, that he is going to enjoy slaps. He is going to enjoy stool. Prabhupada's stool eater is called the pig. So it's already predetermined by the three modes of material nature, what kind of enjoyment. Like we can see, different people enjoy different type of food, different type of music, different type of activities, different type of sense enjoyment, things to see, things to hear, things to smell. Some people, they don't really like the smell of incense. My mother, she's not liking, and some people really like the smell of cooking meat. So we all have our senses. It's already predetermined. And we think that we are in charge of our enjoyment of our senses when it's already predetermined for the animals or the human being or the demigods. So, the bewildered soul, that's our third chapter. The bewildered soul, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, think himself to be the doer of activity which are in actuality carried out by nature. And then Srila Prabhupada into that verse in his purport. He said in the Bhagavad Gita, I always say that, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, no one can understand the transcendental birth and activity of the Lord. Janma karma chame devyam evam yo veti tadvataha tadvadeha Tyakva deham punarjanma naheti mameti. So Arjuna. So that this verse said that Janma karma. So Janma is birth, karma is activity, Chame devyam. Devyam again, devyam is Devi, transcendental, supernatural. And so it says that the birth and activity of the Lord are very, very, very difficult to understand. That's what Srila Prabhupada said in this at the beginning of his purport. Very, very difficult to understand. And the Lord said, my birth and activity are very difficult to understand. That's what he said in the Bhagavad Gita. And he said, only one who surrender unto me, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activity, does not, upon leaving the body, take birth again in this material world, that then my eternal abode. So one who surrender unto Krishna is going to know that. And when someone knows that, knows the transcendental activities, and that's what Uddhava is speaking about, supernatural activities of the Lord and nature. And when we know that, then we don't need to take birth again, and we don't need to die either. Even in this body, we don't need to die, and we don't need to take birth again when we know the transcendental nature of the activities of the Lord. So that was, for your reference, is in chapter 4, text 9. I'm just going to Bhagavad Gita today because, I love our reading with the ladies. Hi, Krishna Gajendra Prabhu. So the last time we read with the lady, we started with a verse that I don't know the Sanskrit, so we'll read it. Yehi samparsha jaboga dukkha yonaya evate adyanta vanta kunteya nateshu amate Buddha. And that's continuing in the same wavelengths and the purport. An intelligent person does not take part in a source of misery, which are due to contact with material senses, O son of Kunti. Such a pleasure of a beginning and an end. So the wise man does not delight in them. So to pound the purport here that we are not in control of sense enjoyment. Here Krishna said, the sense enjoyment have a beginning and an end. If we were in control, there will be no end, isn't it? If I was in control of my sense enjoyment, when I eat pizza, because I love pizza, I don't love pizza in reality myself, but let's say that's something people love. But if I was in control of my sense enjoyment, then I will control that. It's going on all the time. But the fact that it has a beginning and an end is a proof of this verse that Uddhava is telling us that it's supernatural. Prakriti is in charge. I'm not in charge of my sense enjoyment. I'm only in illusion. And here Krishna said, an intelligent person. If we have some intelligence, we are not going to take part in sense gratification, in this enjoyment that comes from the contact of the senses with the sense object. Why? Because this kind of enjoyment have a beginning and an end. And it leads to misery, it leads to lust, it leads to anger, it leads to greed, it leads to so many miseries. And so an intelligent person stay away from that. No, I'm not going to go into that because first, I'm not in charge. I'm not in control of that sense enjoyment. And if I indulge myself in it, I'm going to suffer. So an intelligent person understands that. And then we are going to continue our journey in the Bhagavad Gita. And we are going to chapter 7, text 13 and 14. Tribhing guna mayer bhaveri di sarvamidam jagat mohitam na bijanati mam e bya, param e avyayam. Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who I am above the mode of inexhaustible. So an intelligent person doesn't take place, doesn't take part of that. Then we are not the doers. The doers are the three modes. And when we are under the three modes, we are deluded and we cannot understand the Lord. We are not going to understand. And then the next verse is well known, is 7:14. Daivi esha gudamai mama maya duataya. Mama maya atantite. Mam eva ye papadante maya metamutantite. So Daivi esha. Daivi esha, like the word Daivi is used twice in our verse today. So Daivi is transcendental. Daivi means something divine, something godly, something divine. So Daivi esha gunamai. So this energy of mine, this Daivi esha, this divine energy of mine, it's like Mama Maya, it's Krishna's energy. How can we compete with Krishna's energy? It's his energy. Krishna is all-powerful, omnipotent, omniscient. He is the source of everything. He's the source of the material world, the source of the spiritual world. He knows everything. He's the cause of all causes. How can we try to compete with this energy? My Maya is a Daivi. It's like Maya is a Daivi, meaning it's transcendental, it's divine. It's a divine energy. We are not going to win. So it's the divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is very, very difficult to overcome. Duratraya. Dura means very, very difficult. Very difficult. Duratraya. And one who have surrendered unto me can very easily cross over it. And yesterday we were reading in Krishna book that one who surrendered to Krishna, this big ocean, the big ocean of material misery, becomes so easy to cross. It's like we take the boat. By surrender to Krishna, this big ocean becomes the water that's contained in a footprint of a calf. So that big ocean, if we surrender to Krishna, it's nothing. We just flow with it. Death, birth, and old age, disease, all the misery from other living entity, all the misery from our mind, from our body, all the misery like hurricane, and all those Daivis like coming from the demigod, all those misery, they just become the water contained in a footprint of a calf, instead of being in an ocean. Like, an ocean seems so unsurmountable. An ocean seems so overwhelming. An ocean feels so scary. Like an ocean, no matter how qualified I am to swim, I'm not going to go and through it. So it's completely scary. But then just by surrendering to Krishna, it's not those things disappear. Those things don't disappear. They are here. The three modes of material nature are still in action. The misery of birth, death, old age, disease are still in action. The misery coming from the mind, misery coming from the body, misery coming from other living entities, misery for other being, misery in relationships, misery, from the cold and the heat. All that is not going to be disappearing, but it's not going to be overwhelming. It's just going to be there. So, and then Srila Prabhupada quotes a verse from the 18th chapter. I think he said, let me see, 1855? Is that, yeah, 1855. Bhaktya mama vijanati yavam yaschasmi tadvataha tato mam tadvato gyadva vishatitad anantaram. One can understand the Supreme Personality as he is only by devotional service. And one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord by such a devotion. He can enter into the kingdom of God. So it's the same idea than the purport is about, than one who can understand, one who can, by practice of devotional service, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Payojita. And the only way to understand the Lord, the only way to understand each other is by devotional service. And when it's all connected. When we perform devotional service, Krishna reveals himself to us, through the via media of the spiritual master. So really, the spiritual master is transcendental. Also, to try to understand the activity of a pure devotee is impossible. It's the pure devotee look like us, is with us, is meeting us where we are at, and is fully transcendental. He is in a consciousness that this material ocean is like the water contained in a footprint of a hoof calf. And the activity of a pure devotee are very difficult to understand because they are not under the three modes of material nature, and we tend to be bewildered and confused by the modes. So that confusion and bewilderment tend to be projected on the pure devotee, and we don't understand the nature of the pure devotee. However, the pure devotee is a via media who help us understand the birth and activity of the Lord, to help us by serving the pure devotee, by serving the mission of the pure devotee, we serve the mission of Krishna. And by serving the pure devotee, we practice devotional service. And we are fully, by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, Shushu Satadanasya Vasudeva Bhagavati. I don't remember the last line, but it said, by rendering devotional service to the devotee who is free from all vice, great service is rendered. So great service is not to feed the homeless or all that. By serving that great devotee, great service is to render not only to me, not only to him, but to the entire universe. By serving Srila Prabhupada, we are serving every living entity. We are serving all the conditional soul. And great service render. And don't remember the rest of the translation of that verse. Anyhow, and at the end, Srila Prabhupada speak about the special qualification of Krishna, that the conditioned souls, they want that. They want to be able to enjoy. I want to enjoy my meal with my eyes. When I look at my meals, I want to be able to enjoy it like that. I can just go in, shopping. And every time I go shopping, I go to all the bakery shop, all the pastry shop, and I look at them and I enjoy everything. And Krishna is capable of doing that. Krishna hears the bell. When we ring the bell to make the offering and we offer all the mantra, Srila Prabhupada said Krishna can hear, he hears it with his ears. So when we say all the mantra with love and devotion and we ring the bell, Krishna he hears that and he eats with his ears. And he can have sex enjoyment with his eyes. And in the morning, part of our morning program, Srila Prabhupada established, we sing Angani Yasa Sakalendriya Vritimanti, Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti, Shiram Jaganti, Ananda Chimaya Sadhujvala Vigrasya, Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajamin. What do we say when we say that? It says that the Lord can enjoy. The exact translation is, I worship Govinda, the primary Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, true substantiality, and is thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of the transcendental figure possesses in itself the full-fledged function of all the organs and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane, both spiritual and mundane. So the conclusion here is that we are puppets. we are puppets in the end. We can be puppet in the end of the three modes of material nature under Prakriti, under Daivi, Shakti, or we can be puppet under the hand of Krishna. And when we are puppet under the hand of Krishna, then the boon, like the boon of that, and the perk is that we get to have a relationship with Krishna. We get to feel his presence. We get to, through service, feel love for him and receive his love and feel very, very, very special as we enter a relationship with, finally enter a relationship with someone who is worth our relationship. Because everyone in the material world is a fallible soldier. Fallible soldier. Why will we put our propensity for service, our propensity for love, our propensity to affection to something that's fallible soldiers? And instead, we want to go to infallible. I don't remember the word. Advaita, Ananta, Advaita, Ananta. I don't remember the Sanskrit word for infallible, but all fallible soldiers, Srila Prabhupada said, because we are, as long as we are materially conditioned, we are puppets. So we love a puppet. We are enamored by a puppet that's guided by the three modes of material nature. I'm enamored. Oh, that person did that, or that person did that. When in fact, all those activities are really performed by the three modes of material nature. So then the transcendental vision is to little by little not see the body, not see the covering, not see the conditioning, see the soul journey, and serve that soul journey by either in a nectar of instruction is described the type of relationship, and Shri Upanishad also, that if we really look at relationship, all relationships are made to support self-realization. If we see that our relationships are not for self-realization, then we are trying to gratify our senses in our relationship. And sooner or later, we are going to experience frustration and disappointment, because we are relating, it's like a mask relating with another mask, a puppet relating with another puppet. At one point or another is going to be very disappointing and frustrating. So developing that consciousness that here is a spirit soul having a human experience. Here is that also that spirit soul is guided by super soul, perfectly guided. Last night I received a call from someone, and the person was very much in distress, and it's very distressful situation, because the roommates of that person, who is also the best friend of that person, disappeared. Young person disappeared in a big city, just disappeared. And that the person was speaking to me was away during that time, and our best friend disappeared. And they're young, 25, 26, 27, something like that. And that person who spoke with me used to party a lot with that person who disappeared. Drinking, smoking marijuana, having sex, enjoying life, so-called enjoyment of life. However, this kind of enjoyment of life usually only lead to more illusion, to more misery, to more ignorance. And so that friend was very disturbed, because as we let loose sense gratification, we get more and more mad. So she was maddened, And then in that distressful place, she left the house, and that's already 2 days, and nobody knows where she is. And I could see like it was really painful for that person. And also I could see that person like realizing, because for a few months now, maybe 4 months, that person cleaned up through getting in contact with the Maha Mantra, to getting in contact with the devotees, to getting in contact with Srila Prabhupada, through reading Srila Prabhupada's book, receiving Srila Prabhupada's instruction. That person removed herself from that lifestyle. And now she can see, her intelligence is more alive. Now she have seeing distance, she can see how she's a lot more happy than her friend. And through that, I realized like we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do to really save all those conditioned soul and all those young people. I feel extreme pain for all the young women. One evening, we were on Harinam. Damayanti was probably with you. I cannot imagine who else it could be with. Oh no, it was with Gauda Prabhu. Anyway, it was Gauda Prabhu, and I think Anansuya, you were with us. It was Gauda, Anansuya, and I. And we were downtown Gainesville. And downtown Gainesville, we saw so many young women, barely dressed, like some of them, there was like 90% of their body was showing. And it was nighttime. And there was a long lane in front of the club. And it was full of those young ladies. And like, one could really see easily how miserable they were. One could see how they were anchoring. Like the enjoyment here was anticipation of enjoyment. But the reality was they were outside waiting to enter the club. And we don't even know what will happen in the club. Maybe in the club, it will be a good night. Or maybe in the club, it will be a terrible night. Not feeling attractive, not feeling beautiful, not feeling like they found the soulmate they are looking for, not feeling like they even have friends that they can rely on, maybe getting drunk, maybe getting high, coming home, maybe safe, maybe not. And I felt so much pain. And then Anansuya and Gauda and I, we were chanting the Maha Mantra, and we stayed with them for a little while. And we saw some light coming, some light, like from anticipation of enjoyment to a real enjoyment, to a real bliss, to a real satisfaction. And some of them, they were chanting with us. And I stopped one girl, and she was leaving. She was, I have enough. And I stopped her, and we had just a short exchange. And in that short exchange, I could see like in a moment, she had a moment of realization. I'm wasting my life here. Nothing is going to ever happen on Friday night. Nothing will ever happen on Saturday night. Nothing will ever happen that I'm looking for. And then maybe I'm going to get married and have children, and then the whole catastrophe, the whole, like phantasmagoria, and settle. Like that young lady whose friends disappeared. The first time I met her, she shared with me how she had resigned. She had resigned that life was about partying, getting a job, paying the bills, and that there is nothing else to life. And she resigned to it. She really resigned that, okay, I went to school, I have a master's degree, I go party, half naked, and nothing happened, and I'm miserable, and getting in a relationship with men, one after another, sexual relationship, that lead nowhere, that lead to a male criticizing her and her self-worth dwindling to nothing, and then realizing that that's it, there's nothing else. So sad. And I'm so happy that that night, Anasuya and Gauda and I, we were out and gave a chance to hear the holy name to all those young ladies and young men to start their process, to start the process that maybe something is going to awaken. Maybe somehow the next day they will have less desire for smoking or drinking or any of those activities. So no independence. So we have no independence. So our independence is going to be found in our constitutional position because we are part and parcel of Krishna. We cannot be anything else. We are part and parcel of Krishna. So Krishna's enjoyment is our enjoyment, because how can it not be? Like the stomach enjoyment is enjoyment of the hand. We cannot cut the hand outside of the body. If we cut the hand outside of the body, it's just dwindle and die. But as soon as the hand cooperates with the stomach and feed the stomach enjoy, and the hand is become very, very alive and capable of doing what they are doing best, which is to serve the whole of the body for the body to function well. So similarly, we are the hand of God. We are the hand of Krishna. We are the legs of Krishna. We are the eyes of Krishna. In the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna shows to Arjuna his universal form, he says, I see millions of ears, and I see millions of eyes, and I see millions of mouths. And that's what they are. Our hands, our ears, our eyes, our mouths, the roach's hands, the roach's eyes, the owl's eyes, like all those eyes, they are all Krishna's. And if we allow Krishna to use them in his service, because that's what they are made for, then we become naturally happy, like the hand is happy feeding the stomach. So I'm going to stop here. Jai Uddhava, speaking to Vidura, and kind of wanted to clarify that the Lord doesn't have senses like us. Daivadineshu kameshu daivadina swayam puman go vishwambeta yogena yogeshvara manuvrataha. Every living entity is controlled by a supernatural force, and thus his sense enjoyment is also under the control of that supernatural force. No one, therefore, can put his faith in Lord Krishna's transcendental sense activities, but one who has become a devotee of the Lord by rendering devotional service. In a sense, is really trusting Vidura, because he said from ephemeral sex life was fully manifesting his detachment. But he's saying, well, but you, Vidura, like no one but a pure devotee of the Lord can understand the activities, the transcendental sense activity of the Lord. Hare Krishna, I'm going to stop here. I know I said a lot and I went through a lot of Bhagavad Gita, and maybe I was going too fast. But anyway, any comment, question about anything we shared? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, right from the beginning, when you said about devotional service being the only way to understand why Krishna is not controlled by his senses, or how he's not controlled by his senses, like only through devotional service can we understand that. I think I want to share, well, at first I thought, well, I hope you better explain that more, because and I think you did well. Immediately you went into that, because I wrote that down, like, well, I'm gonna have to ask more about that. I guess because my first kind of reaction to it was like yeah, but like I know that, you know, that's what happened. You said that Krishna is not controlled by his senses, like we are. And I go, yeah, okay, yeah, I know that. And then, and then you said, but only through devotional service can we understand that. And I was like, I honestly, I was like, I don't do devotional service, or like, I don't think I do, or I haven't done enough, or I haven't done that much, like all that judgments, like kind of about myself came up. And I thought, but I think I understand that Krishna is not controlled by his senses. And then I had the question, like, do I, like, what is that understanding? What is that, what is my realization about that? And how much am I thinking Krishna is like me, like, so, and then you said about how when we do devotional service, what happens is Krishna chooses to reveal himself. And then we can see, yeah, he's not controlled by his senses like I am, for sure. And we see that, and he shares with us, he lets us into his transcendental pastimes and activities as we associate with him. Then he like shares stories and everything. And also you said that because he chooses to reveal himself because we like earn his trust. We get into like a relationship that's more intimate and there's trust. So then we can come into those more intimate pastimes. I think those are the things you shared related to only through devotional service can we understand Krishna's not controlled by his senses like we are. I am.
Yeah, I appreciate your reflection and depth of introspection and looking, okay, yeah, I know that. In a sense, I can read Srila Prabhupada's books and say, I know that for every sentence. And that's true too. I listened to Prabhupada's class, read Prabhupada's books for 35 years, been to Bhagavatam class every day for 10 years. For everything, I can say I know that. Oh, I'm not this body. Oh, I know that I'm not this body, isn't it? I know I'm not this body. But there is Gyan and Vigyan, like knowledge, I'm not this body, and Vigyan. Well, Vigyan is going to be shown by how we live our life and how absorbed we are in our body. Like, okay, well, I'm not this body, but still I'm thinking I need to make money. I need to expand. I need material gain. I need to gain. I need to do something to have material gain. Well, I'm not his body. Krishna, I'm part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna is maintaining me. I know that, but do I know it? So similarly, even in the transcendental pastime of the Lord, for example, that story I said about that young woman, someone who understands the transcendental pastime of the Lord will have no worry about that woman. No worries. Someone will really have Vigyan, understand the pastime of the Lord, and how perfectly like Krishna in the heart of that person is taking care of that person in a way that's inconceivable, transcendental to our senses, to our understanding, to our limited abilities. But then when we're worried or feel fear, like, oh, that could happen to me, we don't really understand the transcendental aspect of the pastime of Krishna.
That like when I feel worried something's going to happen to me based on physical, based on me identifying with my body, that shows my like realization.
Yeah. So, and same thing with the transcendental pastime of the Lord. To really, really understand them, because I know if I was understanding that how Krishna eats, then when I make an offering of bhoga to Krishna, I will be in a different consciousness. I will shiver. I will probably not be able to pronounce any words. I will probably collapse in offering the bhoga. But I just go about it completely mechanically because I don't understand that the Lord is eating. and the Lord can manifest himself through the deity, and that is fully present in his name. I can say it. Do I really have complete realization of that? Our life, our faith and our understanding is proven by our soul, and through devotional service. Yeah, I have more understanding and more, more closeness and intimacy with Krishna. Like you do devotional service. Like being here is devotional service. Chanting Hare Krishna is devotional service. Speaking to people about Krishna the way you do a lot is devotional service. You're doing so much service all day. And because of that service, you have more understanding, and the ocean of material suffering is reducing. It's kind of shrinking. It's not so overwhelming than most people. It's not so vast than other people, but it hasn't shrunk yet to the hoof calf of, like the footprint of a hoof calf, like that. So it's just balancing out, and no other process is going to lead us to be with Krishna as part and parcel of Krishna, because other processes are going to maybe help us to overcome the material energy. That's possible. Yeah. However, to really understand Krishna, he's going to reveal himself to him through our loving devotional service only.
I know that too. Yeah, like you're saying that no other process, like I'm thinking trying to master the senses through another process, like mastering over sex through like some, I don't know what it's called, like Kundalini, or like even like through what's given in the Vedas, like the Kama Sutra, or trying to master over like my body, like doing yoga and getting flexible, or gaining mystic power. And like I could see that like none of other process, even if I achieve some level of mastery, it's not going to support me to realize. It doesn't seem like it's going to support me to realize I'm not this body. It seems like it's going to inflate my ego and like get me attached to this body.
Very possibly.
And like it just, well, even if it, for some people, because I don't know, I mean, for some people, maybe it doesn't. Somehow it supports them that they're taking care of their body as a temple and growing stronger and more flexible and getting mystic powers, and they don't become attached to their body, and it supports them. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it would do that for me. If I'm honest, it seems like that would take me further into some illusion.
Yeah.
So when you say it's the only process, I'm like, yeah, I know that. But then the realization level is that, yeah, in my life, when I look around and see where I'm spending my time in nonsense, thinking I'm the maintainer, that's the reality of just where I'm at. Mm-hmm. In realizing that truth, that I can say, oh, that is the truth. Because I have a conversation with somebody.
You don't believe that truth because you're not living your life by that truth the way you think you could.
Yeah, if I was really had conviction in that truth, that I'm not this body and Krishna is maintaining me, and the only way to make progress is through surrender and doing service, then my life would look a lot different. But I'm still like, I know that that's the right thing to do. And in this conversation I had with someone yesterday, they've done Sattva Tov, and they're doing things in other self growth, like other processes, sort of maybe like what we're talking about, like I do with my men's group. And I feel like I get self-realization or some healing of past wounds or something. And with this person, we kind of looked at Sattva Tov doesn't focus on that or give much energy or any energy to like what we would call like regression and healing past, because it's like we want to realize we want to move towards transcendence, and that doesn't mean we have to do that. And I've heard David saying like it may be helpful, it may be it may work for people, but it's not a have to. It's like, we don't have to go and do regression and go back and like heal my traumas from childhood. It's not a have to. So like those processes and groups, and they're there, and they're supportive, and also maybe they're ensnaring, and like it could
become self-absorption.
Yeah, I mean,
it's all about me and my trauma. You know, me, my trauma, my past life, my regression, my. You know, it just kind of becomes self-absorption. And, you know, it's in Sadhvata courses, there is process, enough process, you know, like so many processes that are to look at my childhood trauma, to look at my relationship with my father, my mother, my, you know, what's happened in my childhood, my guilt, my trauma, you know, all that. It is there. It's not like it's not there. To say it's not there, I think it's not correct. It is there. Yeah. And the reality is that this direction is bottomless. Like, we are not coming to the bottom of all my trauma. And then it becomes like a real indulgence in the material energy to try to continue to dig. You know, like we dig when it's natural, when things come to the surface, and they come to the surface. I don't need to dig. If they come to the surface, then I look at them and I uproot them. But if they are not coming to the surface to dig into it, it becomes like all about I and mine. And in fact, it becomes entangling in the material energy instead of freeing myself from the material energy by understanding, okay, I acquired a certain constellation of the mode of material nature in this body, which means a certain field of activities, which include where I was born, which parents I had, how much money I had, how I was treated from the beginning of my life, and all that in this lifetime. And there is so many other lifetimes also that created that I'm here. And in reality, this is like a drop of water tottering on a leaf. Yeah, it goes so quickly. And to absorb myself in the trauma of this life or even previous life, regression can go into Napoleon. And in regression, it's kind of strange because everybody is someone special instead of being an ordinary fellow. You know, only in this life, I'm an ordinary fellow, but all my previous life, I'm someone very known and special. It's just like, come on. If you're an ordinary fellow, you're just an ordinary fellow. We are all ordinary fellows. And, you know, like it's bottomless. It's even in this lifetime, in one life, it's bottomless. The layers of karma and the layer of pain. So we want to do what's necessary for our advancement. We want to move forward. And sometimes we hit things. And also sometimes we hit things in our spiritual life that we are not going to remove. Like only the grace of the Lord is going to bring us where we want to go spiritually. We have no capacity to do it ourselves. It's grace. Like the Christian, theology, like emphasize grace more than, walk in the sense. But that's true too. So what level of personal growth do I need to do to continue to chant my round every day, 16 months, to continue to follow the four regulative principles? What else? What's coming up? But if nothing is coming up, I move forward. And sometimes, even if I'm blocking my spiritual life, there is nothing in my power to do. It's like, beside praying, Krishna, help remove the obstacle. Because right now I want to be closer to you and I don't know how to do that.
I think Damayanti wants to share. I have a visualization I want to share really quick about those obstacles being the snares and hooks. Sometimes it's like the snares of material nature, but like to take responsibility that I've set myself up in this life with those traps, all like down a path and they're all there for me to suffer my karma. And then if I'm praying, like you're saying, to Krishna, like, please, like, help me to come to you, then like maybe I only get they say like the finger cut off when it should be the limb, or I get, I don't get totally encaged in one of those traps of my own making that I've set up, and like on like my journey through life, then only like some damage is done to my body that I suffer, instead of like what I really, set up for myself there, that, so I had this like really, it's so dangerous, like the life that I'm here, because I can really like get into me and mine and even my karma, and like all of the, well, and yeah, and then but then Krishna's mercy is like, yeah, we need to like experience and our karma, and yeah, and it doesn't have to be so to come out of like all the highs and lows of the valleys. Like it can be a little bit smoother, and because we're coming out of the consciousness that I'm the body, so we're not suffering and suffering the enjoyment or suffering the miseries.
Yeah, we can put our feet on a clutch and separate ourselves from our karma. Yeah, it's Krishna consciousness means radical responsibility, and being responsible once I'm here in a material world. I'm conditioned. I'm a conditioned soul in a material world because I have put myself here. And whatever is happening in this lifetime, or whatever happened in my childhood, I put myself there too. Like all the people, my parents, or whatever, they're just an instrument of my karma. They are not the perpetrator. And that's radical responsibility, and that's completely freeing. Completely freeing. And from that perspective, then there's no need to dig, because digging is just like, yes, personal development is helpful to some degree to spiritual life. And personal development can be a biggest obstacle to spiritual life also. Yeah, both. It's helpful to some degree, and there is a time where it becomes self-absorption and like entangling in the illusion that's me and mine and my life. That's what's important, which life is not that important. It's tottering like a drop of water tottering on the leaves. It's how quick it goes fast. It's a song. Govinda Das. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Bhakta Devan. Damayanti Prabhu.
Thank you for the class. Hare Krishna. I had something to say about surrender, but I just wanted to add to this that I did, like, before Sattva-tov, 10 years of digging deep and doing emotional release processes about childhood. And I don't regret spending my time that way, but it became like a worldview that we all need to heal, like hundreds of hours of from the past. It was just like all I knew and what I was exposed to. And it was, I think, overall mode of goodness. It was loving, compassionate, and it just didn't have any transcendence or spirit in it, in the concept. But when I came across, did Sattva-tov, which was another personal growth thing. But then it was like, I heard about this mantra, and that was like 10 years of that conditioning, or maybe 11. And I set up like a whole hour one-on-one talk with dear Govinda Prabhu, saying, are you telling me this mantra is more powerful than the emotional release process that's like built in the body? It was emotional release is a bodily thing. Its emotions are stored in the body. And I was like, okay, the mantra is more powerful than, and I was like, at least willing to contemplate it. But it was it like changed it was a concept that was difficult to conceive of, a mantra. I mean, it was more than a mantra, it was a whole practice, and it was God consciousness and having God in your life. And it was, I was kind of digesting all of it at once, over a period of time. But anyway, so I experimented with the mantra and the practice, as you know. And I just wanted to say that, yeah, my personal growth is to not do personal growth. And that's, obviously I'll do it when things come to I love what you said about when things come to the surface, then face it. And then the other thing I just wanted to add about the class, I was really impacted by, and I've heard it before, but I was contemplating the, reducing the ocean of material suffering down to a puddle and a calf print, footprint, hoof print. I was like, oh, I want that. Like, how do I do that? How do I surrender? And it is related to how the conversation went, because it's like, I don't really need to do a bunch of personal growth to get to the point of surrender. It's just keep moving forward. Like, that's what I kept thinking of, is like, okay, yesterday I was Dominique and her conditioning and everything. Today's a brand new day. I could be Damayanti. I could even be it's like I'm thinking of like these three characters. Like, there's Dominique, this lifetime that I know of. Then there's Damayanti, who's like practicing devotional service. And then there's like the eternal soul who has her pastimes with Krishna. And I'm like, how do I kind of like deal with these identities that do exist within my experience? And it was like, I don't have to do a bunch of personal growth, just, or analyzing or forcing or pushing or anything. I can just like, I don't want to lament about it, but like, keep moving forward. Today's a new day. Okay. I did what I did. What do I want to do today for my spiritual life, for Prabhupada, for Krishna, and just keep moving on. So that's my little summary that where I'm at today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's to not take this life too seriously. And sometimes by absorbing ourselves in personal growth, we take this life so seriously, and we take our little persona so seriously. And to not need to take it too seriously, because it's not that serious or significant. And the only significance it has is how much advancement we are making towards surrender. Surrender is not something binary. It's not, oh, I'm done, oh, I'm not surrender. It's like, I'm sure you're more surrender than you were 10 years ago, a lot more surrender. And because of that, you're suffering a lot less. Even so, we may think I'm suffering, but like, let's imagine that I was not practicing Krishna consciousness. Let's imagine Krishna was not even part of my paradigm whatsoever. The karma, like Bhaktadevan was saying, is still there. And then our suffering are not even attenuated, because when we take to Krishna consciousness, we burn out so many layers of karma that just a little bit is used. So imagine that if we didn't surrender to the degree we surrendered, our life will be way more miserable, like way more. Like the Bhaktadevan gave the example of like, maybe I cut a finger, but really my arm should have been cut. So for everything is like that. When we suffer a little bit, because all suffering will usually help us to surrender. But they are nothing in comparison to what we will be suffering if we didn't have God in our life, if we were not practicing Krishna consciousness, God consciousness, if we are not accepting God as the ultimate shelter, the ultimate controller, and the cause of all causes. Yeah. So you are surrendered, and already the ocean is shrinked, but maybe it's a big lake, like Lake Michigan, instead of being ocean. Still, it feels big. However, it's half shrink, extensively.
During the class, I had this vision of this feeling of like peace, like everything, the enjoyment or suffering is truly, it was just a flash moment. I don't live like this all day, but it was like everything's perfect. Like everything is helpful on the journey, on the journey towards surrender to Krishna. And yeah. Anyway.
That's why, like I took time to be empathic with that young woman, but I also gave that perspective that trusting that the worst thing that could happen to a friend is to continue to drink and smoke and be merry. That's the worst thing. I don't know if she's killed herself, if she was kidnapped, if she's just enjoying somewhere. But I gave the perspective that, yeah, maybe what's happening now, it's exactly what she needs to wake up. And then who is to say it was a bad thing? Like, I know I got cancer and I cancer treatment, and then the whole thing, like everything is taken away from me, really. And yeah, I can see like, oh wow, I'm in such a different place. Krishna took away, like it was grace, because something like personal development will not have done. I know that. No work, no chanting, nothing will have done the work that the chemo and radiation did for me. And who can say, oh, it was bad? Chemo and radiation was bad. Cancer is bad. No, I'm really glad. I'm grateful. Thank you, Krishna. It's great. It's the greatest thing that's happened to me in the last 10 years. Yeah. So yes, it's the duality of good and bad. It's part of the material energy. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Anything else? Thank you all for your association. Kwantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.